essentially
What do
linear.
you do when you get stuck on a movie line with a guy like this behind you?
Wait a minute, why can't I
just
give my
maddening.
opinion? This is a free country.
He can give you. Do you have to give it so loud? I mean, aren't you ashamed to pontificate like that? And the funny part of it is, Marshall McLuhan, you don't know anything about Marshall McLuhan's work.
Really? I happen to teach a class at Columbia called TV, Media, and Culture. So I think that my insights into Mr. McLuhan, well, have a great deal of validity.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Well, that's funny because I happen to have Mr. McLuhan right here. So yeah, just let me come over here a second.
Oh,
Tell him.
I heard what you were saying. You know nothing of my work. You mean my whole fallacy is wrong. How you ever got to teach a course in anything is totally amazing.
Boy, if life were only like this.
Hello and welcome to 365 and 365, the show where I watch 365 movies in 365 days and tell you exactly what I think of them. My name is Jacob Griffin, and today's inaugural January 1st movie is Annie Hall. I kind of first want to preface this by saying sorry if I sound like really tired or just kind of blah during this recording. I just got up from a very long nap that I needed to take after celebrating New Year's a little too hard last night. Okay, so Annie Hall. Annie Hall is a 1977 romantic comedy movie directed by Woody Allen about this comedian who falls in love with this sort of ditzy, aspiring nightclub singer named Annie Hall, and it's a movie about sort of showing the time of their relationship from its beginning to its inevitable end. In the beginning of this movie, it sort of starts off very strange to me because I wasn't expecting it to be the way that it was. Woody Allen is constantly fourth wall breaking, looking at the audience, telling us exactly the story as if you think like a narrator would, you know, where I was expecting sort of voiceover maybe talking about how him and Annie met and, you know, the trials and tribulations of their relationship, but it was very much more akin to sort of just straight up just looking at the audience and saying, hey, here's what's happening right now, or what I'm thinking, or what's oh jeez, I just hit the table, or what's going on in this situation. And it actually at first sort of really was jarring to me, especially the way this movie was edited. It felt very much like they would be talking about something in one scene, cut away to it, and then that would go on to another line of scenes, and then cut away back to something else. And it was sort of very jumbled in its editing at first, especially when, you know, the movie starts off and it's Woody Allen giving a monologue about life, and then it cuts to, you know, his early life, which I was like, all right, so it's going to explain to us maybe some of his neuroses or something like that, and then it just immediately sort of hard cut to him and Annie going to a movie, and then talking about that, and then it cuts back to when Woody Allen's character was married, and then it's sort of going through that time period, and then cuts back to stuff with Annie, and it felt very sort of jumbled in the beginning, and like I wasn't getting sort of a straightforward story, and so therefore I think maybe like about the first 20 minutes is kind of hard to follow if you don't go in with sort of that expectation. If you're just thinking of it, it's like, oh, this is gonna be a straightforward way to tell a story. It does eventually get on that path, and I think it's right after the scene when it shows Woody Allen's character meeting Annie for the first time. From there, it sort of just tells the story straightforwardly. It's very much sort of like a beat for beat, here's how our relationship went over time. And from there on, I think is where the movie gets strong for me. It becomes a much funnier movie to me. It's probably one of the funniest movies I've ever seen, honestly. I laughed very consistently through the movie. The dialogue was even in the scenes when I was confused in the beginning, in the first 20 minutes, I was still loving kind of every scene that I was seeing because the dialogue was so good. And this movie was written by Woody Allen and this man Marshall Brickman. I'm not sure what he's worked on since then, but Woody Allen's kind of a very famous writer, and these two have a very good sort of grasp on writing funny dialogue and getting it across to everybody, and just writing these jokes that really work and really land. Especially, I like a lot of the sarcasticness that Woody Allen's character has, sort of in his, even, just talking to us or talking to any character. He feels very natural, the dialogue, which is always nice when a movie can feel natural and not feel like it's like, yeah, these are people in written conversations, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's a consistent comedy. It's consistently making me laugh. The one thing I really, I think, took away from this that I liked a lot is that it feels very much like an honest representation of how relationships are. There's this one scene in the film where they're having a conversation. It's kind of like a vapid conversation, like, they're just kind of talking about generalized things, but it's showing what they actually mean in subtitles underneath. And I found that scene to be weirdly sort of super honest, especially even the rest of the movie, of just like, there's a point where they break up, and then, she finds some reason for him to come back to her apartment, and then they get back together for a little while just because they missed each other. And it's like, it's that thing of like, they thought they really missed each other, but did they? It sort of goes back and forth about this. The cast, let's talk about the cast. Woody Allen's great. You can tell he wrote this movie for him. He has pretty much all the best dialogue and all the best situations. He's a very funny actor in the movie, and it doesn't feel like one of those things of like, oh, I'm a director inserting myself into my movie because I think I'm better than everybody else. It feels very natural for him to be this character. Diane Keaton is great. Apparently Woody Allen wrote the role for her. I mean, they were dating, I think, at the time, so kind of makes sense that that would happen. And that her character would actually come off very well for her. It plays to, I think, Diane Keaton's strengths here. Everybody else in this movie sort of shows up maybe for like one or two scenes and then is gone. The people that we do spend the most time with is Woody Allen and Diane Keaton. And you definitely get more attached to these characters than you would, say, any other ditzy couple in a romantic comedy, because you feel these characters, they're well written, they're how should I put this? They're people, they're not these caricatures that you see in most romantic movies, and I think that that's a really welcomed addition in this. So it's one of these things of when the movie first started, I was really like, ooh, maybe I'm not gonna like this, and I'm gonna be the contrarian to everybody else, because everybody seems to universally love this movie from what I've seen. All the reviews are usually glowing. It won Best Picture at the Oscars the year it was released. So yeah, I was at first, the way it was all jumbled up, I was like, maybe I'm not gonna like this as much as everybody else. Like, maybe it'll be just, I'll think it's an okay movie. You know what I mean? Because it was still consistently making me laugh. So I was like, all right, there's at least that. I'm at least entertained during the movie. But it's just, it's a hard to follow story. But then I think once the movie really gets going and it gets to be about the relationship between Woody Allen and Annie Hall, I think it really picks up from there, and really gets me sort of involved in the film, and kind of weirdly, like, knowing that this relationship isn't good for the two of them, just based on the evidence that I've been given during the film, but really wanting it to work out for them. And whether it does, I'm not gonna say, but because I really think everyone should go watch this movie, but it's definitely like one of those things of like, you identify with a lot of the things that are going on in this movie, even if you're not as neurotic as Woody Allen, or even as maybe ditzy as Diane Keaton is as Annie Hall. You identify with it because you've met people like that, or you've been in situations with a relationship that was like that. So everyone's had their Annie Hall, their perfect girl to them in life, and I think that that's a sort of weird compliment for the movie, is that you feel the connection there in the end to what's going on. So now I rate this on my patented 1 to 10 scale. No 0.5s here. We just have a straight review score, and I think I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. I really liked it a lot. If it wasn't for that first 20 minutes, I think it might be sort of perfect. But as it stands, just because of that first 20 minutes and how jumbled it feels, it definitely hurts, I think, your first impressions of the movie. Unless maybe you know that going in, and then you're fine with it. So, but yeah, so 9 out of 10. Really liked it a lot. I think it's a great way to start. This sort of experiment was with a good movie, so hopefully we can do that with the majority of these movies, and I don't just end up really hating some classic and then getting destroyed for it. So if you want to follow the show, you can do that at 365 in 365 show. You can follow me at itsjgriff on Twitter, ITSJAYGRIFF. Oh, you're probably seeing it on the screen. This isn't an audio podcast like I usually do. This has been 365 in 365. I'm your host, Jay Griffin, and I'll see you tomorrow with another movie.
That's fine. That's great. Well, I don't know what I did wrong. I mean, I can't believe this. Somewhere she cooled off to me. Is it something that I did?
Never something you do. That's how people are. Love fades.
Love fades. God, that's a depressing thought. I have to ask you a question. Don't go any further. With your wife in bed, does she need some kind of artificial stimulation like marijuana?
We use a large vibrating egg.
Large vibrating egg. Well, I ask a psychopath, I get that kind of an answer. Jesus,